Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today we are here for the Australian leg of the Read Around the World challenge that I'm doing. So let's get started. Good evening everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me as I prattle on about the books that I have read. Alright, so I picked, because it was my home country, I picked 4 books to read for the Australian leg. It was pretty easy to find some books from Australian authors, and I had these on my shelf, which was great. So 2 of them I got from a book fest that we had here last year in March. One was a gift and another one I picked up, unbeknownst to me, that it was an Australian author from what we call a cheap shop here, like sells, $2 stuff and furniture and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I picked it up for $2 from there. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the series that I started, which is the one that I picked up from the book fest here that we had. It's like a little mini book fest. They get all the secondhand books together and the local PNC put it on, and then all the money goes to that particular school that has got the volunteers and all that sort of stuff. So the money stays in the community, basically. And the 2 books that I'm talking about are Jane Harper's The Dry and Force of Nature. I don't have the third in this series at the moment, but I am looking to get it. I'm thinking I'm just going to get it on audio possibly and just read it. I might get it on Kindle. I'll see how I go. So as I said, I got these from the book fest last year. I got them second hand, so I thought, why not read them? And I'm going to start with The Dry. This is a debut novel from Jane Harper, and it was published in 2016, and it has been well received. It was Indie Book of the Year award for 2017. It also won the Australian Book Industry Award in 2006. It was a winner, and it also got the CWA Gold Dagger winner as well. So they're all the stickers that are on the front there. It is set in a small country town that is drought stricken, and of course the small country town has lots of secrets. And it starts out with a murder-suicide, and the main character is Aaron Falk, and he is a federal police officer, and the section that he is in the feds is like for money laundering and stuff like that. So he's only gone to Kuwana, which is his hometown, and he hasn't been back there for 20 odd years. There was some secret that happened, there was something that went down, and him and his father left and they never looked back. And so basically, but his best friend stayed there and subsequently got married and all this sort of stuff. And all the friends that he had were still there and whatnot. So he has come back to the town, and the town are not happy that he is there, but he's there for a funeral of his best mate. And the local copper basically drags him into the investigation. Now, he's investigating with the town copper, but he's not officially on the case because he doesn't even work in criminal investigations or homicide or anything like that. So as I said, it is set in a drought-stricken town, and then the story follows on from that. Now, Aaron Falk is a pretty good character. I liked him as a character. I found him he was just likable. I didn't find anything not to like about him. He was straightforward. He was to the point. He said what was on his mind, and he took chances when he knew that he probably shouldn't have taken those chances and whatnot. So, he's just. I just found him to be a really, really good character in this book. So yeah, and it was the first time reading about him and whatnot, and the secrets and everything that went through this book were pretty good as well. Like, it kept you guessing, and there was a couple of twists and turns that made you think it was other people. And the person that pulled up in the end to be the I did not see that coming at all. I was just like, really? Like, I had my suspicions that there was something not quite right about that particular character, but I was still shocked nonetheless. So I've actually given this a 4-star rating. I've had a fabulous reading month. For January has been an absolutely phenomenal month for me for reading. The books that I've read have all been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed them, and you'll start to see them popping up on the channel and all the rest of it. I didn't find it very predictable at all, but then I don't sit there and analyze every little detail when I read a mystery thriller, because I think that can suck the fun out of them sometimes. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down. And everybody that recommended to me and said that I was going to love it, you were dead on the money. I did thoroughly enjoy it. But 4-star rating for The Dry. Okay, then I went on to the next one. I pretty much finished that one, and then I went on to the next one, which was Zebra. I had a break between the series. So I started to read the Zebra, which is the novella that's in this, and that was 120 pages. Now, I'm not a fan of political stories. Now, I've said this before on that, like, I have read them, and there are books that interweave it into a thriller, mystery, or something like that, and there's a little bit of political drama and stuff like that. But I don't tend to lean towards books that are centered around politicians or politics. I tend to avoid them. Now, I had no idea what this was about. Now, remember when I said in my TBR that this was a body, on the back it says, a body buried in a suburban backyard, a suicide pact worthy of Chekhov, a love affair born in a bookshop, the last days of Bennelong, and a very strange gift for a most unusual prime minister? Well, that's what that Zebra, the story, the novella, is about. It is the most unusual gift for a prime minister. It was a female prime minister, so it was sort of giving me like Julia Gillard vibes and all the rest of it. I don't generally talk about politics or anything like that, but this was weird, this story. While there was politicians in it, and it was like, there was a funny part in it. Where is it? I'll just find it. I don't think I highlighted it because I didn't really highlight anything in this. But she was talking about, I've got all these spam filters on my computer, yet the Nigerian prince email still gets through. Because she's sitting at a computer and she's looking at an email from a gentleman over in Arizona who had a zoo. And basically, he's been trying to get in contact with her. And she's looking at this email and obviously just sitting there shaking her head and then talking about about how the Nigerian prince emails get through and all the rest of it. And so anyway, so I had a bit of a chuckle at that because that was like, that's so true. That was a bit funny. But and then so she's in her garden. It revolves around this garden and her neighbor and this unusual gift. And the story plays out. I didn't find it a very interesting story. It actually, excuse my French, it was like boring as batshit, really. There were some funny parts in it, though. And I think that I found it boring because of my preconceived notions about politics and all the rest of it and how much I don't like it. And I think that played a little bit of a part in me not liking this story. The funny things in it, though, and there's a little bit of spoiler territory here, is the fact that, like, it's the Prime Minister. She's at home at the Prime Minister's house. She's got this kooky neighbour that's always in his garden digging holes and all the rest of it. She's got two ex-police officers that are her bodyguards, and they're called the two Bobs. And then she's just, like, strolling around her garden, and I think she's trying to come to terms with, in the beginning, she was trying to understand where her mother was coming from with gardening, because her mother was always out in the garden and doing things in the garden to relax and all that sort of stuff. So she was trying to find solace in her garden from the day-to-day grind of being the Prime Minister, essentially. And her neighbour, he was so rude to her throughout this story. Like, she'd look over the fence and he'd be like, that, you woman, go away, and swear at her and all sorts of stuff. And I could imagine living next door to the Prime Minister, a Prime Minister that you don't like and that you didn't vote in is living next door to you, would probably grate on your nerves a little bit better, a little bit. And I thought, that is quite a funny thing to put in. Like, I could see myself, if I didn't like the Prime Minister, probably having some snarky comments to say, and whether I'd be brave enough to actually say it to them or not, I'd probably just think it. But yeah, I had a little bit of a giggle about that. And then in the book, he is, like, as the story's going along, he's digging these holes and putting in fence posts and all this sort of stuff. And like, so it's taking down the fence. I got the impression that he was taking down the fence and then putting it back up. And then she's walking around the garden, and then about halfway through the story, she realizes that he is actually moving his fence 8 inches into what essentially is the Australian taxpayers' property, because the Prime Minister only lives in the house while they're Prime Minister. And so he's moving the fence into the Prime Minister's backyard, like he's moving it 8 inch. And like, she sort of starts to get a different opinion of him prior to this coming to light, because she sees him with his children and stuff like that, and realizes he's not as abrasive as he makes out to be and whatnot. And then it sort of navigates the way how she ends up having him work for her essentially in the garden and whatnot, and how she managed to manipulate that situation and get him working. Even though he didn't like her, he still ended up in her yard doing, like, reconstructing some stuff and whatnot. And so that was really odd. But the oddest thing was, this email that she got was basically telling her that the Queen herself has actually taken one of the animals from this zoo. That now, I believe that the owner of the zoo became ill, or there was some reason why he couldn't care for the animals anymore, so he was dispersing them across the world to world leaders and stuff like that, and she was one of them. And then one morning she's upstairs, and this was another funny thing too, because I could just hear the dialect of, like, some of the delivery guys that come here, and that, like, it just reminded me of them. So this delivery guy has turned up with this container that he's picked up from Port Kembla, and I found that interesting as well, because, like, I'm like, oh, Port Kembla, I spent many of my teenage years on Port Kembla Beach and whatnot. And anyway, and my first partner actually worked on the docks down in Port Kembla, so that was in there. And I'm like, oh, cool, it's really good to read about places that you know. And then he's pulled up in his Toyota Ute, and he's got this trailer on the back, and he's you know, unloading this thing, and she's upstairs going, what the hell is it? And they could hear this ruckus and whatnot, and he's going, oh no, just come down and sign for it. And she comes down, and he's just, the dialect in it was quite funny, and he's like, I don't know, I just picked it up, I don't know what it is. And then they've opened it up, and it's a bloody zebra. She's got nowhere to put the zebra or anything like that. So basically she's taken it down the back, and there's a shed down there, and they start feeding it, and, you know, it starts, yeah, wandering around the property and all that sort of stuff, and this zebra is part of the story. And then it just goes on from there, you know, and I felt like it was a little bit geared towards Julia Gillard, because the simple fact was, it was a female Prime Minister. She was unmarried, had no kids, and so that's sort of what made me feel like it was sort of geared towards Julia Gillard. Anyway, it was a boring story, but it had some funny moments in it. I ended up giving it like a 3-star rating. I haven't, like, the story itself is 3-star, but I haven't fully rated the book yet, because there's another. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's another 13 short stories in this. So I will rate the book overall, but that story was a 3-star rating, because it gave me some giggles. Like, there were definitely laugh out loud moments. Could you imagine digging up your fence and moving it 8 inches into your neighbours and thinking that you're going to get away with it? Like, seriously. Oh my God. Okay, so the next book was the part 2 in the book 2 in the Aaron Falk series. So I'm not sure how many are in the series. I know there's 3 so far. I don't know how far the series is going to go. So a little bit about Jane Harper. She is the author of The Dry, as we know. She's the winner of various awards, including the 2015 Victoria Premier Literature Award for an unpublished manuscript, the 2017 India Award for Book of the Year, which was for The Dry, and also the Australian Book Industry Award. And she has rights have been sold in 27 territories worldwide, and a film rights have been optioned to Reese Witherspoon. I wanted to say Weiss then. Reese Witherspoon and Brana, whoever. Can't even pronounce that last name. And she's worked as a print journalist for 15 years in both Australia and in the UK, and lives in Melbourne with her husband and daughter. So she's obviously off to a good start. This book here was published, Force of Nature was published, let me just see. It's not going to tell me, is it? 2017 this one was. So The Dry was 2016 and this was 2017. Now I must say this book was good. It wasn't fast paced. It was probably a medium paced book, but it was nowhere near as good as the first one. It's still a great book and still had a lot of intrigues and twists and turns and all the rest of it. Again, it is centering around Aaron Falk, and he is being called up into the Australian wilderness, because someone has gone missing. Alice Russell has gone missing, and basically the premise of the book is 5 women reluctantly pick up their backpacks and start walking along a muddy track, and only 4 will come out the other side. They hike through rugged Girlang ranges is meant to take the office colleagues out of their air-conditioned comfort zones and teach them resilience and team building. At least that's what the Corporate Retreat Wilderness website advertised. Federal Police Agent Aaron Falk has a keen interest in the whereabouts of his missing bushwalker, because Alice Russell is a whistleblower in his latest case, and she has gone missing. So basically then it is just twists and turns to find out who and why and how, and all the things and the dynamics of the group and how it falls apart and then comes together and falls apart again. There's a bit of toing and froing with that. He's also got a partner in this one. He hasn't been dragged into this case. He's gone to this case because, as it says, Alice is his prime whistleblower in a case that he's working on. And if you remember what I said, he is working in the money laundering aspect of the federal police. Now, there are a few characters that have a lot to lose, and so you seem to think that they are the ones that are behind it, because you're led to believe that she is the whistleblower, and you're led to believe that they actually know that she's the whistleblower. And that she also has a daughter, and then there's a little bit of a subplot happening there as well. But yes, there is a twist and there is a turn, and there's some more twists and turns, and it takes you on a roller coaster ride, and we finally find out who the person is and what happened to Alice at the end of the book. It was wrapped up in a nice little bow. There was no real surprises in this book. It was a little bit predictable. It wasn't as fast paced as the first one. I still enjoyed it, but I put it down. I was able to put it down. It wasn't an absolute page turner for me, but still a great read at the end of the day. And that could be just because I read them so close together. Had I maybe left a bigger gap between the two, I may have enjoyed it a little bit more. I may have felt it was a little bit more fast paced, but in the comparison for the two, I'm hoping that she picks up for the third one and it gets back to that fast pace again. I hope that this is not a trend of hers where she, starts out really good and then it just it dumps a bit. But as I've always said, debut novels seem to put, that the author is putting their best foot forward, and they're always a really good read. It's very rare that I will read a debut novel where I think it's absolute crap. But there have been cases where there have been. All right, but that's all I've really got to say on that. It's a 3-star read for me. Like, it wasn't a real compelling book, but it was still a really good book nonetheless. Was a gift that I got, and this is called The Woman Next Door, and it's by Liz Brysky, I think is how you pronounce it. Unfortunately, I DNF'd it. I got what did I get up to? I think I got up to page 110. My bookmark's fallen out. Yeah, 110 I got up to. I want to say, yeah, 115, because it was chapter 11 I got up to. I had a little dog ear there. It just wasn't for me. After reading The Force of Nature, and I've read quite a few thrillers and whatnot, this one was just a little bit too slow paced for me. And it is very much just, there's a few characters in there, but it's just like a life's journey, and what I read so far, it was very slow. Like, one set of neighbours decided that they were going to live separate lives for a certain period of time to find themselves, and then another neighbour got shirty about it, but she'd left the neighbourhood, and I was intrigued enough to keep turning the pages to chapter 11, but I wasn't willing to put the time into it. Am I going to read it at a later date? I'll probably pick it up again and continue on with it. But for now, for this challenge, I'm going to have to say that it's a no for me. I just wasn't feeling it. I just couldn't get into it. I found it very humdrum, so to speak. And yeah, it just wasn't doing it for me. So yeah, unfortunately, Liz, you didn't do it for me this time, but I'm not going to take you off my bookshelf. I am going to sit you back on the bookshelf, and I'm going to put you on where I've DNF'd it, and you'll go on the little shelf there with the rest of them, and I may come back to you at another time. So we'll just put that out there. Sorry, Liz, but it's a DNF from me. But that is the end of my feelings on that book. If you've made it this far and you've yet to subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and make sure that you tune in I'm not too sure when that next video is going up, but the next video that's going up is for Austria, so keep an eye out for that, for the Read Around the World challenge. They go up on a Wednesday generally, so yeah, make sure that you tune in to see what I've got to say about that one. But that is it from me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. As I said, don't forget to subscribe while you're here, and also give me a thumbs up. It helps me get seen in the algorithm, and I'd really appreciate it. And as always, keep turning those pages, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.